Thank you for tuning in and welcome back to Real Estate Advice. In today's episode, you'll learn 7 housing market predictions for 2018. It would be nice if we had a crystal ball that we could peer into the future, know exactly what was going to happen. Since we don't have that, what we do have are indicators, trends, and seeing how the market's going to shape up in 2018 based upon concrete evidence of where the market has been and where it's going tomorrow. My name is Andrew Finney. Please consider me your real estate geek. I am always here to help. My contact information is in the show more description below. Feel free to reach out to me and send me an email if you just want to say hi or if you need some help finding a great agent where you live. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel now and like this video. Thank you. So let's go ahead and lead in with housing market prediction number 1. It has everything to do with home inventory. In 2017, we already know it's already the old song and dance already. It was a very tight seller's market. Inventory is very, very low in new home construction and in existing homes, which forced out a lot of multiple bids and a lot of people that were overbidding on homes just to get into the house. There was a lot of people overpaying. So here's the silver lining going into 2018, because we're still going to see tight inventory in 2018, but there is a sign of hope, and that sign of hope is coming from 2 different areas. Number 1 is going to come from the current existing home sales. In fact, Realtor.com, the director over there of economic research, Javier Viva, says that he believes that the existing home sales will increase by 2.5% across the United States. You say 2.5%, that's not much. Well, when you're considering it across the United States, it actually is a little over 5 million additional homes on the market in 2018. So that's pretty darn significant with 5 million homes, and that's a good thing. The second thing that we're going to be looking at is an increase and an uptick in new home construction. The next point that I'll be making about new home construction, it'll share some more insight about as far as what they're looking at, the percentages they're putting together and saying that they think they're going to increase nationwide as well, and the type of opportunities and housing options that they're going to be building out there to help people out and getting into a home. So you will see a seller's market more than likely in 2018 as well, but figure that it's going to grow slower. You know, last year it was just nuts. The rate of appreciation was high, and it just really increased. Like in our local marketplace here in Las Vegas, Nevada, it increased by like a factor of 11% across the valley, and that's really steep considering that the historic national average is 3%. I think across the nation it was somewhere between about 6 and 7% this last year, but expect it in 2018 to probably land somewhere between 3.2% to 5% home appreciation for the year. So that little down tick with the increase of home inventory coming on the market is going to be very helpful to first-time home buyers, or if you have a home to sell and you're looking to move up or move down or move to a different area of town or out of state. It's going to give you more options, and it's going to give you a little bit of breathing room to go ahead and plan out that move sometime in 2018. So that brings us to housing market prediction number 2, which is actually new home construction. Expect to see less of the luxury homes that the builders have been building for the last several years and see a turn to more affordable entry-level homes in the wake of high first-time homebuyer demands. The builders are taking notice that you have the millennials that are coming of age and they want to get into the market. In fact, in 2017, millennials, just that generation alone, comprised 40% of all home buyers in the United States. That's huge. And most of them, the biggest complaint was they didn't have affordable first-time housing or entry-level homes to get into because the people that owned the homes were already sitting on their homes because they didn't know where they were going to go. They didn't have a place to go because the inventory is so tight. So this is a good thing. This is a really good thing that we're seeing with Javier Viva's prediction that 2.5% increase in existing home sales will go on the market. And then we're also seeing an uptick in building construction, new home building construction. So as promised, you know, the builder said that they're going to put out about 6% to 8% increase over last year in new home construction. These things are really good things. You're going to see some different design elements taking place and taking form in 2018. And the reason being is from that baby boomer generation and that millennial generation, they're looking at how can they build a home that's going to appeal to both generations. And interestingly enough, it's going to come down to maintaining the open concept and also the larger hallways. Now you might wonder, what does a larger hallway have to do with the price of tea in China? Turns out it has quite a bit to do with it. And the way that millennials, you know, the large segment of the millennial population will be turning about 30 years old in the year 2020. So as they grow older and they get married or they have families, they're going to have kids or they may adopt or whatever they may do, they're going to need more space in their home, and the hallway in specific is going to be a little bit wider to allow for more room for baby strollers, unpacking groceries, carrying stuff around. It's a more utilitarian approach to the home, which is going to be really nice to see. Now, how does that pertain to baby boomers, you may be wondering? It's a great question. Well, as baby boomers age and they have different health needs, some of them may be in wheelchairs, or some of them may have also a need for a larger hallway based upon that wheelchair and the needs that they have to get around the house so that they can live and be comfortable and still maintain self-sufficiency. So that's what you're going to be seeing from the new home builders in 2018, is a turn towards the more affordable side of housing, and that's going to really help out the first-time home buyers. Or if you have, like I said, if you have a house to sell, it's going to give you more options of what's out there and available to buy between the increase in existing home sales and the increase in new home inventory. If you're tracking the percentages, remember that Javier said the existing home sales are looking about 2.5% increase in 2018, and new home sales are likely to increase by roughly 6 to 8%. So that means that we should see about an uptick of 8.5 to 10.5% in overall nationwide home supply, which is awesome because it's going to take the heat off of the market, and it's going to start balancing it out, and that's actually a really good thing for a stability point of view. So housing prediction number 3 is housing affordability. Now, this has been a really big challenge for a lot of first-time home buyers and a lot of buyers in the market, you know, especially with student loan debts and the rate of appreciation going on, mortgage interest rates. You know, housing affordability is going to be really come down to being shaped by 3 factors. There's 3 factors going to be wage growth, the impacts from the tax reform, and the mortgage interest rates themselves. It's interesting to note that the National Association of Realtors chief economist Lawrence Yun believes that if the economy continues to improve, and that's the word that he used, if the economy continues to improve, then the widening gap between home values and income levels could close, which would result in a perception of affordability for millions and millions of home buyers across the United States, at least until the mortgage rates climb. And the mortgage rates are predicted to climb, and we'll get to that point in a moment. So it's important to note that over the last 5 years, when you try to put everything in the context of how we come up with these predictions for 2018, we got to look at the past a little bit to see where we've been, to know where we are, and to know where we're going tomorrow. Well, over the past 5 years, home prices have risen at a rate of 4 to 5 times faster than income growth, according to Lawrence Yun. In 2018, that gap between home prices and income could actually start aligning. And as it aligns, more people are going to find themselves able to buy a home that weren't able to buy it before, and they're going to have the options now, and hopefully we won't see quite as many of multiple bids. And it might sound a little bit counterintuitive to you to have a real estate professional say, hey, multiple bids aren't always a good thing. They're not. Because it's an indication of very short supply, and that's going to increase the home appreciation. And if the home appreciation increases too quickly, it's not that home appreciation is bad. It's absolutely a wonderful thing, home appreciation. But when it increases too quickly, anything that rises too fast is going to be hit by gravity, and it's going to fall. And we want to be careful about that. And you want to stay tuned to point 7 when we talk about real estate bubbles and things to look for. So the next thing that we're going to be taking a look at is the actual mortgage interest rates. The mortgage interest rates from the tax reform, the biggest thing from the tax reform that we're taking away from are some of the changes to the mortgage interest rate deductions. And if that becomes more of a marginalized or subsidized, you know, it's not as important as it once was, especially to the middle and upper class homeowners, then the incentive of home ownership would likely disappear, resulting in a home losing roughly 10% of the value over time due to decreased affordability for home buyers. Because if they're gonna offset, so you have everybody moving up in these different homes, you have people looking for homes, move up, move down, move sideways, move whatever, right? Well, if you start marginalizing the mortgage interest deduction, and especially in more expensive states, this is a problem, because that mortgage deduction could have been what made that house more attractive and more affordable to that family or that person that bought that house. If that happens, then as homes become less affordable by virtue of not having a little tax benefit, then you can actually look at a loss of property value, because it's going to have to, somewhere in the market, it's got to balance. The house is going to have to come down to the price that the buyer can be willing to pay or is able to pay. So we're gonna see a little bit of an offset right there. So that's an interesting point, and it's anyone's guess to see how that exactly plays out. But that's something that Steve Cook over at who is a real estate communication consultant with comsconsulting.com was mentioning his concern about that. So now let's move into housing prediction number 4. Housing prediction number 4 is actually about the mortgage interest rates. Mortgage interest rates are predicted to climb anywhere to 4.4% to 5% by the end of 2018. Matthew Gardner, who is a chief economist over at Windermere Real Estate, believes that the average interest rate on a 30-year fixed rate conventional loan will increase to 4.4%, while Javier Vivas, again from Realtor.com, says it will likely go up to 5% by the year's end. It is important to note, and it's really important for you to know this and understand this, and the people that have been around a while back in the 90s and early 2000s and such will definitely remember this. A rate of 5%, 6% is still historically a very, very, very good rate. So just keep that in mind as we move forward and we start seeing interest rates climb. It's just a function of the market. It's one of those things that happen. But if you're on the fence thinking about buying a home, 2018 should be the year that you do it. If you're planning on selling a home, get it, and go ahead and sell your home while you can still get a great price. And with the increase in existing home sales and new home construction, you'll have more options available to you out there to be able to find your next home that you want to move into. So prediction number 5 is actually about millennial and first-time home buying trends. Now, this is really interesting. Millennials will continue seeking out urban suburbs or suburbs. I did a video earlier this year about millennials are choosing suburbs to move into. You might be wondering, what the heck is a suburban, right? So a suburban is like an urban suburb, if you will. And they have like an urbanized area and a suburb. They had a baby, they called it a suburban, essentially. And what it is they're walkable neighborhoods with highly ranked schools and increased amenities and a closer range so that their commute time is less and everything is right in one spot. And they actually are quite happy to live in smaller units like townhomes or something like that have those conveniences in a lot of cases. So what the next factor is that millennials will continue to play an increasingly significant role in the housing market as time passes forward and going forward. So the issue many millennials and first-time homebuyers are facing right now, in addition to the rising home prices and housing affordability, is actually their student loan debts. So expect to see some different things happening with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and probably how they look at student loan debts and how that's included as part of their debt-to-income ratios in 2018. The other thing that it's a shame, and I've made a lot of videos about this with my lending partners as well, is they just don't know about first-time home buying programs or low down payment options such as an FHA loan or a VA loan. Those are really important things to look into as a first-time home buyer or any home buyer. An FHA, a traditional FHA loan, is a 3.5% down payment loan, whereas a VA loan is a zero down loan. So they're both really good loan products, but to have a VA loan, you have to be an active duty or a veteran to be able to use that, whereas an FHA, anyone can use it. So it's something to know. Talk with your local loan officer and see if those options are right for you. So the next thing that we want to take a look at is a lot of the real estate economists that I've been researching and following along with in 2017 are predicting that while millennials comprise 40% of all new home buyers in 2017, millennials will actually consist of 43%, and an increase of 3%. So a total of 43% in 2018 of all home buyers. So that's really, really interesting and expected to grow as we move forward. So let's move into real estate prediction number 6. Since we have this little bit of a stagnation, where do people go whenever they get ready to sell their home? Then what you're going to likely see is a lot more home renovations by people that are homeowners right now, choosing to renovate their home opposed to buy up or buy down or whatever the case may be. They will likely increase with home renovation to figure out what they want to do and be able just to make that home what they really want it. A lot of it's kind of like a chicken and egg theory, what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Well, where do you go? If you're the chicken, you try to go back in the egg. If you're already in the egg, are you trying to go out and be a spring chicken? I mean, where are you going to go? And that's the big concern and a little bit of the fear that people have right now. But it's important to know that fear is simply an acronym, false evidence appearing real. We'll never grow if we stay in place. So we got to focus on what's right for you and what's right for your family. And if it's best for you to move, then make a move. If it's best for you to renovate, then renovate. Whatever you want to do, that's all that really comes down to it. And that's what's most important. So that trend may actually change a little bit with the home renovations, and you might see more people putting their homes on the market as the new home construction starts catching up with that 6 to 8% forecasted increase in 2018, along with that 2.5% anticipated existing resale increase of home inventory. So we'll see what that happens. The other thing that's important to note about the tax reform, and this is a biggie, and we'll see how it actually plays out. But as it's proposed and as it's going through the legislative process right now, a biggie, a really, really big thing for homeowners that would be wanting to sell is the capital gains tax. You know, in prior years, you only had to live in your primary residence for 2 of the most recent 5 years. So if you owned the house for 5 years and you lived there for 2 years of the most recent 5, then you'd be able to qualify for a capital gains exemption. Essentially, for a single person, it'd be up to $250,000 of equity. If you're a married couple, then it would be up to $500,000 of equity. Well, underneath the Trump tax reform, that 2-year period just went to 5 years. So from 2 to 5. So that means that if you were planning on buying a home, staying in it for 2 to 3 years, selling it, and then moving on to your next, you might want to talk to your tax professional, and you might want to reconsider that approach and plan on staying in that house for 5 years, because you won't get protected from the capital gains tax underneath the Trump tax reform. Important to note that. So, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, housing prediction number 7 is housing bubble anxiety. Now, this is one of the things that a lot of people get really concerned about, and it's important to understand. And even though home prices have risen at nearly like a whiplash speed across the United States for the past 4 to 5 years, then, you know, some people are gonna start playing chicken a little bit and start sounding the alarm. It's a little bit premature to do that, and there's 2 main indicators that any of us and all of us can consider across the United States of what to look for. Number 1 indicator that you want to look for leading into a actual true real estate bubble, or a bubble in any marketplace, but here is in real estate that we're looking at, is a sale to list price ratio. So you might be wondering, what the heck is a sale to list price ratio? Well, let's say that a home is on the market for $400,000 and that home sold for $396,000. That would be a sell to list price ratio of 99%, which means that home sold for 1% less than it was listed for. So as long as those numbers are upwards of 97, 98%, then normally you're pretty good. And normally that's what you see in a lot of markets, is homes selling anywhere between 1% and 4%. If they start going too high above the 100 mark, which means a home is selling for more than it's listed for, that could also be an indication of just a very tight market like we saw in 2017 and not enough inventory. And then you get into multiple bids and stuff like that. Now, the second thing is more significant than even the sell price to list price ratio, and that's debt to loan value, or loan to value ratios of a home buyer. Now, loan to value home ratio for a home buyer is very, very important. So what is that? Let's say that same $400,000 home was a family that was a military family, and the max VA loan limit is like $424,100, and I'll be getting with my lenders to see if that changes in 2018 as well. But let's say it's $424,000, and they were going to buy a $400,000 house, right? And they did it on 0 down. Well, that loan to value ratio would be 100%. Now, if that same military family had gone in and they put 25% down, then that loan to value ratio is 75%. So what we're seeing is actually a tumbling spiral a little bit with the loan to value ratio, which is actually a good thing. So we're seeing more value in relation to the loan. This is really important to note. So in other words, to simplify it, more people are putting down more money on the homes that they're buying. So that's a good thing. So that's something else to be looking for, because if you're not cash strapped, then we don't run the risk of notice of defaults and start getting into secondary indicators of a collapse. The other indicators to watch are just that: notice of defaults and a hyper supply of home. Now, understanding market cycles, I'm going to put a link down below to a Harvard University with Glenn Mueller's market cycle quadrants, and it has 4 quadrants, and it's pretty cool. So you're going to have essentially 4 phases. You get a recovery phase, an expansion phase, a hyper supply phase, and a recession phase. And each phase has 2 main indicators or thresholds on this quadrant chart. Number 1, with phase 1 is the recovery phase. You have a declining vacancy and you have no new construction. So obviously we're on the flip side of the recovery phase right now, because we're seeing more and more new home construction, and as alluded to earlier in this video, where the new home construction is expected to increase by a factor of 6 to 8% by the end of 2018. So we're seeing that new home construction right now. So phase 2 is an expansion, is declining vacancy and new construction. That's where we realistically are right now, is in the expansion phase where we're seeing more new home construction. Phase 3 will be hyper supply, which is increasing vacancy, meaning that you're leaning back more towards a buyer's market, and you'll have a whole lot of new home construction. And then you'll lead into phase 4, which is increasing vacancy and more completions and of home construction whenever you have all these beautiful tracts of homes and all of them vacant. This is a problem. This is how the collapse of 2008, 2009 occurred. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and put that source link down below as well. And it is important to note on that same prediction that his name is Fred E. Foldvary, accurately predicted the 2008 major bust back in 1997. He and his associate George Harrison are now predicting that the new major bust won't happen until after the next real estate peak, somewhere in 2024. If there is no major interruption such as a global war. Obviously, things are subject to change, so if there's a global war, well, that could definitely impact the economy and impact the housing market and do a lot of different things there. But it's important to note that they were accurate. Back in 1997, they called the shot for 2008, and going to that website, it has some very, very interesting information, and it's very, very fascinating with how they predict this based upon the historic charts in the U.S. real estate market. So go ahead and take a look at it, but for 2018, in short, take a deep breath, relax. And it's really up to you whether it's the best time to buy or sell a home. It really comes down to that. Don't freak out. Don't be like, oh, I gotta sell on the high. Everybody wants to sell on the way up. Everybody always wants to sell a house at the height of the market. Well, the best time to sell is when that roller coaster is going up. Because you never know really when you're at the top until it creaks over and goes down. So the best time to buy a home at the same time is when the rates are good and you can afford it and it makes sense for you and your life and your family to do so. Always plan this out ahead of time and just know what you're looking at. So with these 7 housing market predictions of 2018, what I'd like you to do is tell me what you're thinking about them in the comments section below. It's really interesting stuff. I'd really love to hear what your opinion and your thought process of the market is, where you think things are going to go, and what you took away from this video. If you have any questions about anything, I'll put my contact information up. Feel free to reach out to me just to say hi, or if you need help finding a great real estate agent, I'll put my network of top real estate agents to work for you. So again, like I said at the beginning of the video, if you haven't already done so, I'm going to ask you to do 3 things. Number 1, please subscribe to this video. Number 2, please like this video. And number 3, please share this video around with somebody you think it'll be able to help. Thank you so much for watching today, and between now and next time, wishing you and your family a lifetime full of love, wealth, abundance, and happiness. Thanks for being here. See you soon.